The woman's bare feet sliced into the frozen gravel. Each breath was a cloud in the pitch-black Alaskan night. Behind her, the low growl of an engine. Headlights danced through the trees. She could feel him gaining. Somewhere out there, in the vast nothingness, lay the bodies of other women who had run and lost. This was not just a killer. This was a predator. A man who didn't just kill, he hunted. Robert Hansen was born in 1939 in the small Iowa town of Esterville. His father, a strict Danish immigrant, ran a bakery with military precision. From the outside, the Hansens looked like the American dream. Inside, Robert's life was marked by isolation. He stuttered badly. His acne left deep scars on his skin and self-esteem. Classmates mocked him. Girls rejected him. He retreated into two passions, archery and hunting. Out in the fields with a rifle, Hansen didn't have to speak. He could control every variable and every living thing in his sights. Over time, that sense of control became intoxicating, and it planted a seed. If he couldn't dominate the social world, he could dominate the wilderness. In 1960, at just 21 years old, Hansen acted on his growing resentment. He burned down a school bus garage, a petty act of revenge against the town he felt had wronged him. Arrested and sent to prison, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and antisocial tendencies. But in a system more focused on rehabilitation than prevention, he was released after less than 2 years. He remarried, moved to Anchorage, Alaska, and opened his own bakery. The quiet, hardworking baker, the devoted father. No one knew that behind this wholesome facade, the hunter had found the perfect hunting ground. In the 1970s, Anchorage was booming. Oil money flooded the city. With it came bars, nightclubs, and a seedy red light district where hundreds of women worked as exotic dancers, escorts, and sex workers. They were transient, often far from family, and rarely reported missing quickly, if at all. To predators, they were invisible. Hansen blended in. He offered women large sums of money for private encounters. Most thought they were dealing with a shy, awkward baker. They had no idea they were stepping into the lair of a man who had refined his skills in the wild. Hansen's method was as calculated as it was sadistic. First, he'd abduct his victims at gunpoint. Then he'd fly them in his private bush plane to a remote stretch of wilderness. There, he would strip them of any means to escape. No shoes, no supplies, no hope. And then, he'd let them run. With a rifle and a hunting knife, Hansen would stalk his victims for hours, sometimes days. This was not about a quick kill. This was about domination, replaying the powerlessness he'd felt in his youth, but now with himself, in complete control. Over the years, bodies began turning up in shallow graves along the Nick River and in the Matanuska-Susitna Valley. All young women, all connected to Anchorage's nightlife. Investigators suspected a serial killer, but without witnesses, physical evidence, or consistent leads, the case stalled. Hansen was questioned once in 1972 after a woman accused him of kidnapping, but charges were dropped. He was questioned again in 1976, and again walked free. The predator had learned something crucial. As long as he chose his victims carefully, the law couldn't touch him. That changed in June 1983. A 17-year-old named Cindy Paulson was found barefoot and handcuffed running down a street in Anchorage. She told police she'd been chained in Hansen's basement, assaulted, and told she was being taken to the wilderness to die. But while Hansen was meticulous, he made a mistake. Cindy had seen his plane. She could describe it in detail. She knew his face. Detectives now had a name and a connection between Hansen and the hunting grounds where bodies had been found. With enough circumstantial evidence, investigators secured a search warrant for Hansen's home. What they found was a map, an aviation chart marked with tiny X's. Each X was a grave site. Some matched known crime scenes. Others pointed to places where bodies had never been recovered. In his attic, they found trophies, jewelry, driver's licenses, and belongings from women who were long dead. Confronted with the evidence, Hansen confessed to killing at least 17 women between 1971 and 1983. Some believe the real number was closer to 30. In 1984, He was sentenced to 461 years in prison without parole. He died in 2014, never fully revealing all his victims' names. To this day, not all the graves on Hansen's map have been found. The Alaskan wilderness is breathtaking, remote, untamed. For Robert Hansen, it was the perfect hunting ground. For his victims, it was a silent graveyard. They say the wilderness doesn't keep secrets, but under the snow and ice, some of Hansen's secrets remain buried forever. Was Hansen born a killer, or did years of humiliation and resentment shape him into one? I want to hear your theories in the comments. And remember, some hunters don't stop until they're caught.